Welcome back. And today we're going to talk about the next step in our mechanic lien system, and that is to prepare the mechanic lien forms and get those on file. So I like to always take a look at where we've been and where we are today. And as you know, we've gone through the whole process of getting all the information put together. We've sent out a pre-lien notice if you're a subcontractor, and if you choose to do it all the time, that's fine. If you choose to go through the analysis of whether or not you're required to send out the pre-lien notice, that's fine too. We've mailed the pre-lien notice, and now we're ready to prepare the mechanic lien forms themselves. So I want to go quickly over the rules again, and I know it sounds like I'm beating this to death about the rules, but it's my philosophy that if you'll just tell me what the rules are, I'll play any game you want to. And so I use this philosophy in my practice to making sure that everyone knows the rules that they're playing. And again, in a mechanic lien system in Oklahoma, the rules are very simple. If you're a subcontractor and you need to send out a pre-lien notice or mail out a pre-lien notice, you have 75 days from the last day of work. On a mechanic lien, if you're a subcontractor or sub-supplier, you must file your mechanic lien within 90 days of your last day on the job. On the other hand, if your contract is directly with the owner, you have to file your mechanic lien within 4 months of the last day of work. And again, remember, we've talked about this in past videos. For subcontractors, it's 90 days, not 3 months. And for general contractors, it's 4 months and not 120 days. So make sure that whichever, whether you're a subcontractor or sub-supplier or a GC or a supplier who has a contract directly with the owner, that you're clear about those distinctions. 90 days for subs, sub-suppliers, 4 months for original or general contractors. So now we get down to the meat of the matter. Now, up to this point, we've just been preparing to do this document. Now, the document that we're going to prepare is called a mechanic lien, and this is how we perfect our mechanic lien rights. Whenever you work on a project and improve someone's property, you have mechanic lien rights, but you haven't what they call perfected those rights and give notice to the world until you prepare this document and file it in the county where the project is located. Now, again, I'm a believer in creating systems and creating forms that I can use consistently over and over and over and over, because it reduces mistakes and you get better results. So the form we're going to look at today is the mechanic lien form that we use if you are an original or general contractor and your contract is directly with the owner. Then you're a general contractor or original contractor. This is the form we use. This is the form that we file within 4 months of the last day of work. And it's very simple, and it's just like the pre-lien notice form. It's a form that we've created, that we've used in our office, and we've created red fields for you simply to fill out based on the information that you've collected in your checklist and all the hard work you've done. You simply go through this form and fill it out. So the first area that we have on our form is to identify what the document is and to identify the county that the document will be filed in. Again, remember, the mechanic lien has to be filed in the county where the project is located. So if you're working on a big commercial project in Tulsa County, you have to file it in Tulsa County. If you're working on a big project or a small project in Delaware County, you have to file it in Delaware County. Oklahoma, every county where a project is located has a county courthouse, and you have to file it in the county clerk's office. So the first thing to do is to identify the county where you're doing your work. And again, just like the pre-lien notice, this is very simple. You put in the name of the claimant, your address, telephone number, the name of the owner of the property, the mailing address of the owner, the address of the property where the project is located, the physical street address, in the county where it's located, and then the legal description of the real property. Again, by this time you should know it by heart because you've pulled it up so many times. You just pick it up out of the checklist, drop it into the mechanic lien. Now, let me go back here real quick. If you'll take a look down here at the bottom where I say caution, this form will not apply if you're providing labor or materials to a tenant of the property. Consult your attorney regarding any liens against tenants. Well, let's talk briefly about doing work for tenants. Now, let me give you an example. Say, for example, there's a shopping center in town and a national tenant comes in and leases space within that shopping center, and they hire you to do a remodel or tenant finish. That would be a situation where you're working for a tenant instead of the landlord. I want to be very careful about this. If you believe you're working for a tenant, or if there's any indication, please go talk to your lawyer, because it becomes very complicated in determining whether or not the landlord was in partnership with the tenant, what the relationship was, if there's any way that you can hold the landlord liable. But the general rule is that if you do work for a tenant and not the landlord, then you can only put a lien on the estate owned or held by the tenant. And the estate held by the tenant would typically be the lease. Now, the statute says that you can put it on the improvements and the leasehold, but you cannot put a lien on the dirt or the real property itself. Now, again, this gets complicated, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here because I don't want to encourage you to do this without talking to your attorney about the implications of working for a tenant. There's good reasons to file a lien against a tenant. There's good reasons not to file a lien against a tenant. So we want to be very careful about that. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. If you anticipate that you're working for a tenant, or in all fairness, I think you should always ask your attorney if he or she believes that this is a situation that before you file your mechanic lien, if this is a tenancy situation where they need to be more involved to make sure that you make the right moves. Because again, I want to remind everyone that if you put a lien on property improperly and it causes damage to the property owner and you didn't have the right to file the mechanic lien against that property, there's consequences. And they could be very serious consequences, including damages and attorney's fees back against you. So I just want to be very clear about that that's something that you always need to be very careful about, is dealing with tenants. Now, the next paragraph in the mechanic lien is to, again, identify the labor or material used on the property. And again, this is very simple. You put it in the pre-lien notice, you've already got it in your checklist, pull it up, drop it in, and you're satisfied. Now, if you look down here under my footnote 1, I have different rules and forms apply to rented or leased equipment. Consult your attorney regarding filing liens for rented or leased equipment. Right now, I'm not going to get into filing liens against rented or leased equipment. That's a little bit beyond what we want to do here. What I want to do is kind of give you a general idea, a general sense of the process or the lien system that you can implement in your company. There's different rules for rented equipment, so talk to your attorney about those rules if you anticipate that you have a situation where rented equipment is involved. Now, the next paragraph is, again, very simply, list the last date of work that you did on that project and make sure that it was within 4 months of the last day of work, and to identify the county where you're going to file the mechanic lien and the amount. Again, this is very simple because you've already got it all together. Drop it in there and you're ready to go. Now, if you look here, I say a true and correct copy of the invoice is attached as Exhibit A. What you want to do is always try to attach as an exhibit the actual invoice showing the amount due. And again, the more description that you can give, the better, because the reason of the mechanic lien is to perfect your right into this property and to also give notice to third parties that you do claim an interest in this property. And so you want to make sure that you provide as much information as you can. Again, that's just a continuation of that paragraph of identifying the amount of money that's owed to us. Again, we make the statement whether the property is or is not occupied as a dwelling by owner. And if occupied as a dwelling by owner, then you attach the pre-lien notice that you mailed. Again, if you adopt the process of always sending it out, then slap that pre-lien notice that you sent out with copies of the green cards, the certified mail return receipt green cards back, and attach it to the mechanic lien. Again, then you list the amount that is owed. And then again, you need to do a verification that that all the information in there is correct and accurate, so that you put in your name, you're the claimant, you put in the county where you're going to file the mechanic lien, and then you list your name in that paragraph. And then again, you notarize your signature. You have to make sure that that you notarize the person who's signing the material, or the materialman's lien, mechanic lien. And if you're signing on behalf of yourself, you don't have to put in this last information right here. But if you're a corporate entity, then you want to put in this additional corporate language. And again, I want to be very clear. I'm not suggesting that anyone start practicing law. What I'm trying to do is to provide some education about the process. So always talk to your lawyers about filling out these forms, because this form is very important about to make sure that you protect your lien rights. And if it's filled out incorrectly, then it can have huge consequences. Now, I have clients who do their own mechanic liens. They are sophisticated enough that they've done this enough. They do this daily, and they take care of it fine. But until you get to that point, always reach out to your lawyer and make sure that, if nothing else, they review the document to make sure that it's done correctly and give you some assurance that everything is as it should be. Okay, so the next step in our next video, we're going to talk about how to fill out a mechanic lien for a subcontractor or sub-supplier, and then we'll talk about some other issues before we wind up the video series. I'll talk to you then.